Thanks for joining me today. I'd like to talk a little bit today about the state of end-user computing. So we've done some research again, and for those of you who've joined, perfect, thank you, Hank. For those of you who have joined E2 before, you've probably seen this session, but with different content, because we've just wrapped it up. So let's get cracking, because I have a lot of content. But first there is something that happened in a Dutch tradition that I wanted to explain to you. And there's something strange going to happen here today. So this is beschuit met muisjes. So for those of you who are Dutch, they know what it is. This is the color you give everybody. Thank you. This is what you give everybody when you have a girl, obviously. This is what you give, to people, friends, family, when you have a boy. In my case, I wanted to bring both of you. So beschuit met muisjes, that's how you say it in Dutch. This is how it translates in English. More or less. But DHL kind of crapped on me. So apparently our office, there was nobody this morning at 10, which is strange. I highly doubt this. So you would have gotten to know a very nice Dutch delicacy, but unfortunately the guys at DHL ate it. So maybe it'll be here tomorrow, maybe we'll never see it, but look out for these beschuit met muisjes because they're really nice. So let's get into the survey. This is me, next to me you see Ruben Spruit. We've been doing this survey since about 2013, almost every year. We forgot it sometimes, so that's not the drinking, we just forget every now and then. I work at VSI, so if you want to do performance test validation of your VDI environment, we're the virtual user company. All of you know us, so we're not going to talk about that. Frame, Ruben, what can Frame do? Frame runs any software in the browser. So thanks, Ruben. Unfortunately, he's in the UK, so he couldn't make it here. And together we call ourselves VDI Like a Pro. It's not just us, it's a whole community. And this year we've surveyed what people do in the industry. And not just a few people, we're very proud to say that this year we had 755 participants in this end-user compute survey that all filled a lot of questions about what they're doing every day, what products they're using, how they're using them, what problems they run into. And we get that, a 60, 70 page white paper might be a little bit of a long read, so we're just telling it to you here. That's a lot easier. So, a question from me to you. Who of you participated in the survey? Thank you. For the rest, shame on you. Go away. No, thank you. Look it up. The survey is there for free, so you don't have to register. Jared?
What's the best way for people to participate? From a vendor perspective, I can tell you that the data is unbelievably useful.
Yes.
But we would love to see numbers go higher. Is there Twitter handles or things that people can follow for next year?
Yes. So there's the @VDI Like a Pro or Ruben Spruit or myself. And I'll get in contact with you as well because we've got this new thing called GDPR here. So we used to just, mail drop everybody invitations. That doesn't really work anymore. So for next year, we're going to have to find a ruse and figure it out. Still, we managed to get 755, which we are extremely proud of. And as last year, most people came from the US. So America first, Netherlands second, and UK the third. Now these regions might be a little bit off with what you expect, but that's because we use databases from, for example, VSI, from Frame, from other companies that are in these regions. So that's why we have more respondents from there, obviously. It's also good to note that we see that there are typically more Citrix folks in here. So we don't know why that is, but if we look at the numbers, then Synergy seems to be a lot bigger trade show than VMworld, which just by the sheer numbers of it, the volume is not true, but we have this difference year to year, so by now we can compare that. Most people take 13 minutes to fill the survey. There was one guy who actually took a full whopping 8 hours to complete this survey. I'm not saying he was slow, he was probably very thorough. He did make it all the way to the end, so that's awesome. I thought this guy left his browser open, fell asleep, maybe he died, I don't know, but he actually made it to the last question. So if you are this person, I want to give you a hug, that's awesome. From last year's, we didn't ask this question anymore because we had too many. We know that most people who fill the survey are technical. That's just a reference. number was the same every year, so we just decided to skip it now. But just for your information. So let's dive into the server-based computing and VDI numbers as a starters. And it's always a little bit VDI versus server-based computing. I don't really feel it that way anymore, but in the market that's what's happening. Not surprisingly to you guys, Citrix XenApp is the most popular choice there for server-based computing. And if we look at the market, about 64% of server-based computing, so not VDI, is on XenApp. If we look at VDI, we see that Citrix is also winning there, but the numbers are a little bit lower, so 58%, still a very nice market share. So if we look at it, there's more than just the broker. For example, what hypervisor are people on? And there we see that traditionally VMware has the upper hand, right? People are more inclined to be on ESX than they are to be on Xen Server. I'm sure Alex will confirm this as a Xen Server enthusiast, more or less. But we also see that, and I think the title here is a little bit off. Doesn't matter, you guys are smart. Yeah, hypervisors, good. So we see that VMware is winning there, but there are also a lot of people still on older versions. So make sure you check your end of lives of these products. Right, we have hypervisor, but we also have a question about, for example, what version of XenApp are you on? About a quarter of the people who are on XenApp are still on 6.5, which is currently not a very good idea anymore. For VDI, we see about the same numbers, right? VMware, still the popular one when it comes to the hypervisor. It doesn't make a big difference there. If you do have questions, by the way, or you want to interact, just interrupt me. That's no problem at all. We see that.
Mark,
yes.
In the previous slide, it says that VMware practically have like more than 50% with all the version accumulated
Of the hypervisors, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is in the market where we see more of our Citrix friends joining. So last year we participated with ControlUp in the survey. We saw data that was a little bit different on your data points, because we also cover different regions. So it always depends. So that's very good feedback. Always keep that in mind, and use multiple sources, of course.
Yeah.
Rick, do you know the numbers from your backend by heart?
No idea. I think it's like a lot for VMware, but I don't recall what's the actual. Eugene probably knows it by heart.
Eugene here? No?
I think he went.
He left.
I can ask him, I will tell you.
Will do. So Eugene will come back with those numbers from ControlUp side later. So we see that if we look at these environments, that especially the small environments, there are less of them. Logical reason, we see those people move to the cloud easier, right? They're the first to jump over. They don't want to run the full infrastructure themselves. And we see that for the rest, it's relatively stable. We've got a little bit more of the mid-size, but the smaller is really declining and going to the cloud. Ruben would say that they're all going to Frame. Unfortunately, he's not here, so they're just going to random clouds. And we see the same, of course, when it comes to, let's see, this is VDI. The previous one was server-based computing. So if we look at native Windows applications, I've selected this one because in my line of work, there's a lot of people who say, well, we don't want to do native Windows applications anymore. Everything's going to be web. It's going to be, in the cloud. We don't install anything anymore. But we see that, there's still an incline a little bit in how many apps are 100% Windows. I know this label says 60 to 100%. I couldn't figure out how to make it 99% anymore in PowerPoint. So there's that. I need a new marketing intern probably to help me out with that. I'm getting old. But we see that that's dropping, and 100% Windows apps is actually going up. So does this mean that these environments are being used more for legacy applications, and that's why there's 100% Windows applications? We're not sure, but it's definitely not going down. Not in percentage, but also not in the total number of people that fill it. Now, last year at E2EUC, I think it was in Prague, we did the same session, and some of you might recall it. And we had this number here where about 40% of the people said, well, our VDI environment is okay. It's not too bad, it's not really good, people don't complain too much, they're not really happy with it, but we get to keep our jobs. And I asked you if we could see this year if this number could become higher. Can we get more happy people in their VDI environment? So let's quickly look and build up to that number. 82% of the admins who participated patch their systems once a month. So keep that in mind, you know. Helga just did a cool demo on Uber Agent where you can see the patch level of your machines. Windows 10 is coming up with updates regularly. Software vendors are releasing every 2 weeks. So we see that more and more people are patching more often. This also means that you need to do something with automation. If you do not want to spend your whole day clicking around in software just doing updates, you're gonna have to need to automate some things there. However, 22% of the admins who participated still say they do everything manually. Well, that must be a lot of fun. It is a great way to fill your day. You can also spend 8 hours on a survey. I don't really think it's the perfect way to get the happiness and experience in your environment up. So think about that, and maybe next year we can finally get rid of this stupid 40%. Because it didn't change anything. So I got confused. I was like, do I have the right numbers? So I looked in the raw data, and probably in the back you can't see it there, but it's around 40% every year, however you calculate the numbers. So it just doesn't seem to change. So that's what I'm going to think about for the rest of the year, you know, if we are allowed to come back here next year, of course. How can we make people, you know, to be more happy in these end-user computing environments? There's a lot of cool new technology coming out. Why doesn't this number change? Right, could be getting worse, could be getting better, but why is it the same?
Maybe it's the sweet spot.
It must be the sweet spot.
Cost and the enjoyment.
I even thought about changing the question a little bit, where people are like, I'll just click somewhere in the middle. I don't really know. I don't care about my use. I just click somewhere in the middle. We don't know. It's strange that the number is so close year to year, where we see the rest of the data really fluctuating. This number is just rock solid. So we don't know. If you have any good ideas, feel free to give feedback on our survey, download the full white paper, give some comments, and make us happy. So, what are the biggest challenges in a typical VDI environment today? So, overall complexity reduction. I'm gonna have to read this from the screen because with the 2 kids now, I'm getting very little sleep, so I don't know the numbers anymore. Overall complexity, migrating to the cloud, and that one made a big jump actually, a big jump up. And overall reduction of the complete technology stack. So from back to front, not only technology but also licensing. There's a lot of complexity in there, so people are still being challenged by that and they want to get rid of it. So if we look at the trends there, we saw a lot of things going down. That's interesting. We do have the numbers year to year from all the surveys in raw data. We didn't yet add the lines that are going up for the second bullet here, which was migrating to the cloud. That one should be in here. You see that one going up, and the rest is going down a bit. So cloud is really ramping up there, and it's happening. Last year we already saw that a lot of people were preparing for it. This year we see that people are moving there a lot. The biggest one yet still is overall complexity, as you see there. So there's a lot of technology, there's a lot of moving parts. Apparently that's all of your guys' biggest worry. So last year in 2017, that's why this slide does not have any color on it, we saw that 58% of the people were still on Server 2012 R2 and 50% on Windows 7. So Windows 10 must surely be bigger than Windows 7, right? Yeah. Windows Server 2016, is that already more popular than 2012?
I cannot imagine.
I see a few no's. Anybody going for a yes? No. Too bad. So we see that 41% is still on 2012 R2. And I have the exact numbers here for 2016. Let's see, that's about 25%. So not close. But we clearly see that they're breaking up. So 2008, get rid of it. 2012, people are getting rid of it, and they're
But there's still 2003.
Yeah, I don't even know why we allow people to fill that still. It's just, don't do that.
But they feel.
Yep, for legacy applications that they just can't get rid of.
Not only legacy. I have quite some customers who are saying, oh, okay, now we are starting to think about moving away from cloud. Just because they have lazy administrators.
Lazy administrators, that's always a good reason to say it, right? I'm sure their security is on par.
They don't mind about security.
Okay, so
till now.
Please tell me who they are so I can skip doing business with them. So what operating systems are used for the desktop? Windows 10 is now the most popular one. So quickly became more popular as Windows 7. There is also a few brave souls on Windows 8. I don't know why anybody started that. You know, most people jumped from XP to 7 to 10. There's a few people that tried. Okay, we should try this. Oh no, maybe not. And there's also a few brave souls here who are doing VDI with Linux. So is there anybody in the audience here who is sacrificing their users? No? Good. I don't know too much about that, but manageability. So, like I said, there is a lot of people who do manual updates in their master image, and it's actually the most popular choice. Okay, SCCM is very close. You know, most organizations, about 5,000 users have SCCM. I believe 80% of the companies above 1,000 users have SCCM, but there's a lot of people doing things manually. Which, you know, there are a lot of consultants here troubleshooting applications, doing application delivery. We know we all make a good living out of that, but as an admin, I wouldn't really recommend it. And there's also quite a few people, these must be the marketing people filling the survey, that are not really sure.
By magic. It happens by magic.
Yeah, it must be magic. So, yeah, we have these applications. Yeah, I have no clue where they're coming from. Probably they just made everybody admin or something, I don't know. So, do you currently use application layering? And you know, especially over here, there's a lot of people who have opinions about products. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. Last year we had a lot of debate about application layering. Some said it will, you know, go completely crazy, everybody will do it. Others said no, it will never take off. We do see that there's quite a few people who are not doing it yet. And most people who are doing it yet, currently, and think about it again, this survey is Citrix biased. Most people are using the former Unidesk product. And if we look at that over time, and I didn't bring that slide, but we see that only Citrix is really growing and the other ones are stable. So if you want that data, download the full report at vdilikeapro.com for free. So, managing the user environments. More and more people are actually just going the Microsoft route. Microsoft profiles, group policies, boom, you're done. There's also the guys from RES who are now Ivanti. And I also saw a few ex-employees here. They're going down, both. So that's, you know, not really remarkable. People, I guess, are a little bit worried what will happen with the products in the future. But you know, it's sad to see. You know, the company got put together, and you hope it will grow. But the first reaction of the market is actually a small but significant decline. So that's too bad. And liquidware is growing nicely there. So, application virtualization. Which one is being used? No surprise there. AppV, and AppV is growing. And even past no application virtualization is used, as it was a few years ago. So, I don't know, Timothy, if you have any comments on this, maybe just dropping you and didn't warn you, I'm sorry. But it's gaining popularity, and with new solutions coming up, and I think you're doing something about MSIX later?
Yeah.
So, tomorrow, make sure to join that session because there's a lot of potential there, and we'll see how that influences this graph next year. So, cloning solutions, provisioning server, going down just a little bit. We see MCS stable, link clones going down. It's a very stable market. People are not changing this all the time, right? You've chosen a solution, you're probably going to stick with it until you really change your environment around or you have problems. This is not something you change on a day-to-day. It has such a big impact on the environment. And we actually see, that I have 10 minutes left, but we also see that the age of the environments is going up. So where people used to do these big scale migrations, you know, every 3, 4, 5 years, depending on the organization, they would change everything. They're now taking more the Windows 10 regime. They're swapping out parts, right, as they go. Maybe they put in a new Netscape or they put in a new storage, but they don't upgrade everything at once anymore. So that's probably a smart thing to do.
Mark, one question to the last slide.
Yep.
I can't find instant clone there. Would you not consider instant clone as an image deployment technology?
I think it was, but then it's in the raw data, so then it wasn't significant enough to be on the screen here. But come to me after,
Yeah.
or download the full report. I'm sure it's in there, so only it becomes very messy if we put all the lines on the screen. So everything else. Hardware brands, we're seeing HP is getting a big hit, so getting less popular. And we don't really call out a winner for this survey, right? It's just data. We don't necessarily have strong opinions on this, but in all the data that I'm seeing, it does recommend to buy Nutanix stock. Just saying. HP, not so popular currently for server-based computing and VDI. Nutanix is, in all the graphs where they are available, they're going up. So that's interesting. And they do also, of course, spend a lot of marketing time and effort on that. Now, if we look at storage, we do see some changes here. Not surprisingly. If we look at just vendors, then we see that especially the tier 3 vendors are taking a big hit. So the traditional ones, NetApp, EMC, they're not doing really well in the EUC market. Maybe they are doing well outside of that, but storage is really for the smaller kids on the block. And yeah, just interesting to see how everything changes there and is changing rapidly. So antivirus, this is one of the more popular questions where people, especially also in the other box, find 1,000 different products that are all being used at just a few customer sites, but most popular Symantec, God knows why. And other than that, it's just a list. So download the full report. Second in is Windows Defender. So just the default. Who here is on Windows Defender? Working out good? No surprise there. Expected that one. So I work at a performance company, right? We troubleshoot environments with performance issues on a daily. This is one thing to look at. If you're changing your antivirus, especially with Meltdown and Spectre, keep a good eye out for what you're doing and optimize it for VDI. Don't just take your fat client settings, apply them, run it, and let all of your virtual desktops do a scan at the middle of the day, because your users are going to notice. I can guarantee you. These are still the same things, right? When I started this job, we were looking at scheduled tasks, optimizing images, looking at antivirus. Still the same things. Look at them, right? They might be in your or your customer's environments, and you might be able to gain a lot there. There's also free tools, Citrix Optimizer by Martin Zuciak from Citrix, VMware OSOT, the operating system optimization toolkit by Hilko Lantiga and his team from VMware. Just download them, use their optimization templates. It's free, it takes a few minutes. Don't enable all of the optimizations, because then your system will be very quick, but it won't actually do anything useful anymore, so it might not be appreciated. So find the middle ground there. So GPUs. Jared just left. In the beginning he was asking questions and he knew this one was coming, I guess. So no surprise there, NVIDIA is the most popular one, and we see that, well, maybe next year there might be more desktops with a GPU than without. So that's interesting, because it's not cheap. And there are plenty of challenges with that still, but good to see that the market is picking it up. And I was in a call this week with Ruben, and we did a talk for Tech Target, and Ruben also said, well, you have a GPU in your fat client or in your notebook, why wouldn't you have one in your virtual desktop, right? So it made sense. Unified communications is just going up. It's no surprise, but I wanted to show you the numbers. Voice and video, 40%. This is just part of modern work life. I spent quite some time in hospitals lately, not for myself, luckily. Even, the nurses, the doctors, environments that have a lot of legislation, laws around privacy, they're doing this. So this will impact what's happening there. And that might also mean you need more of these GPUs. Office versions. Most people are on the latest version, 2010, 2013, and there's even some brave souls on OpenOffice. 5 minutes. Thank you. Desktops as a service. So, what's happening there? So, why are people potentially interested in desktop as a service? So, who here is running their desktops as a service. Good, our numbers are very representative. Cloud first strategy. You know, it's just a strategy of the company. It might be that your CTO has decided this, or even other C-levels. Pay as you go, you know, going from CapEx to OpEx, very interesting. And disaster recovery. Disaster recovery is very interesting. I see more and more companies who have a full environment copy in the cloud. They just turn it off, right? So it costs nearly nothing, and just turn it on when they need it. It will be very expensive then, but it's cheaper than having the complete company not being, you know, useful. We do also see differences in regions. I understand that you can't really read this in the back, but all of the data that we have available, if you want to write about it, present about it, just hit me up. We can split it up. We can correlate questions. But we see, especially in the Netherlands, people do not like cloud. And we see, if we look at the whole of Europe, that a lot of people are being affected by GDPR and pushing away their cloud decisions because of that. It makes life a little bit more difficult. So, which public cloud solution or provider will you use? Well, here's the list. So Citrix is popular. Most popular one is none. So you see here again the difference. The green one is USA. So less people are not going to do cloud. That's a great sentence. Less people are not going to do cloud in the USA than they are going to do in the rest of the world. In the Netherlands, look this up. It's reference material. Right? It's not like reading, for a Sunday afternoon. If you're doing something with cloud, you want to do what your peers are doing. Or for the matter, that's also the matter for the rest of the report. Just look it up and have some interesting things. Have some data to convince your boss or your colleagues. So, biggest challenges for the cloud: availability in the region, of course, creating a positive business case because it is quite expensive, and of course, legal and regulation. And this differs per country, like I said, and that will definitely not change anytime soon. So, what are the most popular initiatives? I don't think this comes as a surprise. Windows 10, Desktop as a Service, and Office 365. It's very close to the list of last year, only then we also had the GPU in here. GPU is now our number 4. So it is still close, but the numbers changed, where DAS replaced the GPU. Now, this is a new question we had in here for the first time. Which influencers do you follow? So I'm sure all of you guys here watch on LinkedIn every now and then, watch on Twitter. Who do you follow? BrianMadden.com, still very popular. Ruben Spruit. He says that he did not tinker with the numbers here, but I know you organize a poll and you suddenly win. I know. Carl, Stelhout, Aaron Parker, Rory. I know there's a few bloggers out here. The list was a lot longer, but these are in percentages the most popular ones. So they probably have the best information, but it also depends on what topic you're looking for, right? So Timothy definitely for AppV, as our Christian for Azure and Citrix. So it depends what you're looking for, but these are the most popular ones. So which blogs do you follow? Brian Madden, Carl, Citrix blog, Carl Webster, 2 Carls. And the VMware blogs are the most popular ones. Of course, some of those are very vendor biased. And then there was this question that I'm sure is rigged. There are a few big EUC events every year. Citrix Synergy, according to our public, the most popular one. VMworld, pretty big. And after that, there's E2 EVC. So, put your hands together for Alex. Nice job. Having 755 people, bribing them to put E2 EVC in. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. He's right there after VMworld and Synergy. So that's definitely something to be very, very proud of. As you can see, every year we have a very expensive marketing department that does all the graphics. You can download the report for free on vdilikeapro.com. Follow the VDI Like a Pro Twitter handle, or Mark Plettenberg, Ruben Spruit for more updates. We'll work more together with vendors next year to draw more public in, because we're being hit by rules, regulations, GDPR. We can't email anybody anymore. And then I'm gonna grab a few more seconds. No,
Seconds.
seconds. Just Meltdown and Spectre, there's a lot of talk about that. I do have a lot of data about it. Are you being affected by that? Are you interested in performance results? Probably I'll be close to the bar later. Hit me up, I'll share the numbers with you. Tom, actually a presenter of last year, did some testing. We see that on server 2016 and 2012, there is an impact, but it's not as big as you expect anymore with the most recent patches. We saw that on Zen server, we lose about 4 to 5% with Zen app. We saw it because Zen app is thought to be worse than Zen desktop, which is also true. On VMware ESX, we actually saw a 9% drop in performance if we do all the patches. So that's the Windows updates, the hypervisor updates, the firmware updates for the BIOS. So we went all the way from, oh, it might be 40%, which we do see at some customers with older operating systems, all the CPUs, all the works, to, hey, it might just be 5 to 9%, which is still a lot if you have thousands of users, but it's not as bad as the initial report said. And it really depends on your environment. So I'd like to close on this, because otherwise I will be dragged off the stage. Yes. And I would like to thank you for your time, and a special thanks for those of you.